Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
We'll come back to talking about the migrant crisis and events that we've seen play out in Kent at the weekend in just a moment. But to other matters and to legislation on its way to improve what's called food security, adapt to climate change and support farmers. Well, it probably ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? But what does it actually mean? Let's turn to Conservative MP and Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Minister Mark Spencer, who joins me to explain. What exactly is food security and what is coming about today, Minister? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, so clearly food security is about making sure that we're well fed as a nation and that we're adequately supplied with food. And, the good news is we've been very successful at that since the Second World War. We've been well fed. We've got very robust supply chains in place. But, I think we would all acknowledge as the future rolls towards us, there are challenges coming down the track, and we need to make sure that we are efficient in our food production, but also we have an eye on the environment and our biodiversity at the same time. So this new technology will help us become more efficient and more productive as a nation producing our own food.
There's the third reading of a bill, I understand, scheduled for today. What does that allow for, Minister?
Yeah, so basically it allows for new technologies and to speed up traditional breeding methods. So for decades, we've basically taken a little paintbrush and we've brushed the pollen off one plant onto another, and we've sort of hoped that we get a great outcome in terms of the trait of that plant. So it might be more disease resistant or require less pesticide or grow taller or shorter. But the new technologies that are now available allow you to make that process quicker and to do it in a laboratory so that you get the traits of the plant that you really want for definite rather than at random. And I think that will allow us to lead the world in new varieties and new traits of plants, which will mean less pesticides, it'll mean better yields, and ultimately it'll be better for the environment.
Minister, how should we react to a story on the front page of the Financial Times? Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to quit a deal that allowed Ukraine to export millions of tons of grain will lead to a fresh jump in global food prices. Catastrophic consequences for poorer nations, say experts. Food shortages looming in East Africa. The US describing as, quotes, outrageous, and prices likely to rise in UK. Quite a list, Minister.
Yeah, it is. And, I think that is one example of the challenges we face as a nation and as a globe to keep ourselves all fed, which new technology will be part of the solution to that. But while we have people like Vladimir Putin who are willing to act in such an outrageous way and to commit abhorrent acts of war, we are going to see this upheaval in food and energy markets, which is why we need to try and protect ourselves from that by using the technologies available to us.
On a story not exactly part of your brief, but I have to get a word from you on it. You will have seen the events that played out in Kent over the weekend with the firebombing of a migrant centre and then reportedly the man taking his own life. Can my listeners at least rest assured that your colleague Suella Braverman and her team will work now as hard as they can? We all know a resolution is needed as soon as possible for this issue. Minister.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is terrible. We're talking about the most desperate people on earth. That they are being exploited actually by people who take their life savings, who put them on unseaworthy vessels and put their lives in danger by forcing them across the channel in those boats. And we need to deal with those people as quickly as possible, as compassionately as possible. And I mean, actually, we've got a very good track record of being a compassionate nation. We've taken people from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Ukraine, from Hong Kong. And I think because we're such a compassionate and caring country, that's why people want to come here. But we have
many
to
of my
break the
listeners
business
say
model.
we're too caring. I mean, I put this to you, Minister. I wouldn't do it. You get £40.85p per week to live. It's not exactly a huge amount of money, but many of my listeners say we're a soft touch. Minister.
Yeah. So we need to process those people as quickly as possible and work out who are the genuine asylum seekers, who are, very much the most destitute people in the world and who could be returned to a safe country. And we need to make that process as quickly as possible. That's what we're working towards doing. But in the meantime, you've got to try and keep these people safe and secure.
Very much now back on your brief, the environment. It is understood the Prime Minister is reconsidering his decision as to whether or not to attend COP27 in Egypt. Should he go, in your view?
Well, I think obviously the Prime Minister has a huge inbox. He's come into that job and he's got a lot of challenges, not least of all making sure that the fiscal statement that's coming in November is in the right place and in the right order. It's something we do take very seriously, COP. We'll have serious ministers out there, but only the Prime Minister will know whether his diary will allow that. And I'm sure he would want to go if time will allow, but we were not going to know that till nearer the time. But rest assured, we will be sending out big hitters and serious players, and we'll continue to lead the world in advancing our way towards a more environmental future.
Yeah, I mean, my question is whether he should go.
Well, if time allows, only he will know what he's got in his diary. As I say,
I wonder if he's thinking of going because Boris Johnson's going. Do you think that might influence, that might colour Mr. Sunak's decision?
I don't think that's a consideration. I think actually he'll be looking at how much he's got in his inbox. But I think the fact that Boris is thinking of going is a demonstration of how seriously the Conservative Party and the Conservative government takes these things. The big hitters will want to be there.
Well, and it's interesting you would say that, because I was speaking with your boss, Dr. Coffey, last week, who said it was, quote, just a gathering of people. So which is it?
It's a gathering of very important people, and we want to play our part in leading the world.
She forgot the
which
words
is what
very
we've been doing.
I suppose. Is that what it was?
I think we've got a very good track record of leading the way on these environmental challenges. We'll continue to do that, and if the Prime Minister's diary allows, I'm sure he will go. But we've got to get things right domestically as well, and that's what his focus is on this week.
Lastly, people are very concerned as regards national security and the use of mobile phones and telephony by ministers. Might I ask, do you take certain measures? Are you very careful with your mobile phone? There does appear that some people, there is an accusation that some ministers behave in a rather Wild West fashion. Minister?
Well, I think you get, as a government minister, you get a lot of help and support from the intelligence services on how to keep yourself safe. Every minister gets that briefing and that support, and we should acknowledge that there are rogue states out there that want to do us harm and want to do the UK harm, and we need to be careful of how we use our technology, because they will exploit us.
What measures do you take, might I ask?
Well, I don't really want to get into the actual detail of it, but they give you good advice on what you should and shouldn't do, and what tech you should and shouldn't use, and on which phone to do which operations.
Right.
But,
so you are
a lot
cautious.
of support out there. Well, I try to be, but that we're talking about rogue states who want to get in any loophole they find. So you just have to be as careful as you can and take the advice that you're given.
Okay. And lastly, another possible U-turn for Mr. Sunak, HS2. Do you think, as Mr. Gove was intimating yesterday in various radio and TV studios, we need to review whether that expenditure continues?
Well, I think we're a long way, excuse the pun, down that track. We've built a huge amount of that of HS2 already, and I think the mistake that we've made, as a series of governments have made, actually, is we keep talking about speed, and we keep talking about the speed of that train. It's about capacity. It's about getting as many people onto trains, which is better for the environment, to get in and out of this great city of London, where lots of us like to work. It is about capacity, not about speed, and we need to find a way of transporting people in an environmentally friendly way as possible, and HS2 does deliver that.
Respectfully, it's not us who called it High Speed 2, HS2.
No.
It's hardly surprising the media's focused on speed, seeing as you called it a High Speed 2.
I think it was a previous government that did that, under a Labour government. They started that project. We're continuing to deliver it, but it is about bums on seats rather than the actual speed.
Enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for your time. Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Minister Mark Spencer appearing here on LBC Time. Just coming up to 8 o'clock, let's catch up with the latest headlines. Lottie Morley.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.